Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Put That On My List, the podcast where the guest comes in with the movie and the questions, and we answer them. My name is Trey Jones.
I'm Dom Salima.
And today we have...
Hi, I'm Leon.
And you brought in a great movie for us today, which you've been asking very much to talk to us about and been very excited the whole semester to talk about. And that movie is...
The Long Walk.
All right. So you've seen this how many times in theaters now?
I've seen it, maybe, what's the last time I say? I think 4 times in theaters, but I've seen it in general about 8 times.
4 times in theaters?
Yeah.
I haven't seen a movie that much in theaters since Endgame.
It was The Batman for me.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good movie. Well, I always love a movie that you can come back and rewatch, and this is definitely one of them. And my favorite part is this movie exercises the ability to not be 2.5 hours long.
I was going to bring that up to you. I'm like, I went to watch it last night, and I was like, oh my God, it's under 2 hours. And by like a good amount, like 12 minutes under 2 hours. Like I was like, they're understanding what's going on.
Yes. So this lengthy intro to say you are very excited to talk to us about this. So what drew you to this film?
Like, nothing. I honestly thought I was not going to like this film the first time I went to go see it. I just haven't been a big fan of Stephen King for a long time, since like goodness 5th grade. But my friend was really pounding me to go see it, so I said, you know what, all right, I'll go check it out with him. And it surprised me a lot about how good it was.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, I certainly was surprised, but I was intrigued by the fact that we had a talking movie. I love talking movies. Do you like talking movies?
Yeah. To go off the talking movies, one of my first mental notes I made for myself while watching it was I thought most of the dialogue was pretty good. I thought it was decently written. In the beginning, there's some moments where I was just like, all right, that's probably not the best choice to say, but yeah, that's just me being OD. And I say all that, but I couldn't give you a better option to put for dialogue. So take what I say with a grain of salt. But I thought the movie did very well with that.
Yeah. My general opinion was that I really did enjoy it. I thought, it stuck to its premise solidly, save for some flashbacks. They basically stay to the road the entire time, which I like, because I like when a film has an idea and it sticks to it. And it says, what is everything we can explore about this concept? And in that way, I really did enjoy it. But this show is not the show where we just talk about how we feel about things. This is the show where we are answering challenging questions. So what was a question you wanted to ask us about The Long Walk?
My first question is very basic. I was just going to ask, what were your impressions before and after you had seen the movie? Because my impressions before and after the movie was very, drastic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'll take this one. I remember a few months ago when I first saw the promotions for this movie, and I saw it, I'm like, oh, okay, this looks like another easy cash kind of deal, like a thriller movie with some sort of threat, but there's also like a physical element to it, which like cancels your capability of doing something. Like it reminded me of something like what's the Bird Box?
Yes.
Or this is another reason one, Elevation, where these aliens can't go a certain level of elevation in mountains, so you have to live above there. Even the what's the one where they can't make noise?
Quiet Place.
Quiet Place, yeah. So like I thought it was just going to be another one of those where it hinders some sort of like physical ability or some sort of sense, but it wasn't. It actually made you. It pushed your physical limits, which is a little interesting. So I immediately was hating on it when I first watched it. Then I realized it was based off a Stephen King book. I'm like, this doesn't. I haven't read any Stephen King book. I haven't really watched many of the movies based off of it. So I was like, this doesn't feel like Stephen King because it's not like horror. Or at least when my first impression, it wasn't horror. So that made me a little bit more sympathetic towards it just because of his name, if I'm being honest. But then I watched some more clips. I might have I did get a couple of things spoiled online before we even planned on doing this movie. And then that caught my eye to it more. I'm like, okay, this is this looks very compelling. And then, you brought it and forced me to watch it. After watching it, I was hating on it for no reason. I thought it was really good. And it just, I paid attention the whole time. It wasn't boring. It was just constant flow. The characters were great. And it was really emotional too. Like there's some parts where I was just like, this, I'm rooting for everyone, but like not everyone's going to win. And that's what sucks. And like, I just was really impressed by how emotionally tied I was to it. Because like, there's like those generic movies that they just throw out there, cash grabs, they can be entertaining, but you don't really necessarily care what happens sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So those were my thoughts.
Yeah. I think my impression of the film was I was ready for something to be a movie is a movie. It felt like the kind of concept to me when I was hearing about a movie where people walk and there's like rules and if you don't do it, you die. It was like, this sounds like the perfect film that if somebody was trying to get their start in directing, they would make something like this, which intrigued me because I was like, well, a lot of people really liked it. So that must mean that, you don't need Endgame to get butts and seats. And I mean, yeah, the film wasn't a financial juggernaut, but that doesn't mean that it didn't need to be because it was such a unambitious concept, both financially and in the story. So in that way, I was really excited to just watch something that was trying to be itself before it was trying to be anything else. And then when I was watching it, and then after the fact, I was very pleasantly surprised with the way the story was paced out. And I felt very similar. I kind of felt that like looming question. I was like, these people are all talking about you don't make friends on the long walk. These people are talking about only one of us is making it out. But you don't really, just like they kind of don't really grapple with the mortality of it until that first kid dies. Like I wasn't really grappling with the mortality of it. Whereas like all these people meeting each other, these like kids at the beginning, they look at each other and they're like, either that kid's dead or I'm dead. And that is crazy. And you don't really realize right away.
No, you don't.
Just how frightening of that concept.
The stakes of it.
Yeah. But then the first kid goes down and it's like, yeah, that's pretty crazy. Just because of a weak leg.
Yeah, that's right. He had the Charlie horse.
Yeah, Charlie horse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that sucked.
Yeah. Not as bad as diarrhea.
Drink your water. Oh, yeah, that was bad. He didn't drink enough water, though. He should have stretched 8 bananas before that.
Yes. Where's all the potassium? He was like getting warmed up too. And they're like, you don't need to get warmed up for this. You're going to be walking at plenty. But yeah. That was my answer to that question. I don't mean to harp on too long about that. But yeah, it was very pleasantly surprising experience.
Okay, awesome. I guess my next question, you already kind of answered it, but I was going to ask if you found the movie boring at all. Like when I would take either friends or if I see it, they would constantly tell me like, oh, they're just walking. This is very boring. They're not really entertained. I wanted to ask if you guys found it boring at all.
Your friends said it was boring just because they were walking the whole thing. Did they miss the whole concept of the movie?
There wasn't any Subway Surfers gameplay. If there were trains and they were running instead, it would have been great.
Maybe they should just make movie theaters vertical.
Yeah.
Just flip it up, make the whole thing.
Or maybe they should just make a Subway Surfers movie.
Yeah.
I could go to Hollywood with that. That would be a lot
there you
of money.
go. There you go. That's crazy. That just makes me mad. Anywho, yeah, like I said before, I was entertained, and I was more entertained than I thought I would be, just because of how like I said before, emotionally tied I was to it.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. I mean, I'm used to watching long movies, and I'm used to watching very patient ones. I'm very for all of my gripes about my own work and what it means to like make a good film, when I'm watching something, I'm very forgiving. I'm forgiving on the technical side. I'm forgiving on the writing side, as long as I know that somebody was really putting the effort in. That's why when you get a bad Marvel movie or Star Wars project or something like that, where you know it was made by a bunch of people on a multi-billion-dollar budget, I'm a lot less forgiving. But this is not that kind of movie. So my natural inclination when watching something that other people would say is boring is, I'm going to give it a shot. And I did, like, if you set your personal timer to their timer, where you're just walking with them, I feel like you get into the rhythm of what the film is doing. Now, I will say, as all films do, probably around the 2/3 mark, it kind of starts to drag as, like, the next kid gets killed in the same way as the last one because everybody gets shot. But I mean, it didn't beat around the bush too much about getting us to the final lapse of the story. That's the way you deal with that.
Yeah, and it seems like it looked like they had an idea beforehand in pre-production to keep this. Well, obviously they know like an idea what the runtime is, but they really, like you said, they didn't beat around the bushes. Like when there seemed like there's a lot of people left and like not that much of the movie left, then they cut to the scene with a hill, and it took them all out, right? So they knew how to like pace it properly. They did a good job with the pacing, and dealing with the contestants.
Yeah.
Of the long walk.
Yeah, the hill scene was a really good example of that, because it was like, especially because it was pretty early.
Yeah, and that's like, it's hard to walk up a hill like that. You've been walking for 3 days or however long they have been walking for.
Yeah, that was like I think like around, I don't know how many hours in, but like more than I've ever walked. So
yeah,
can't judge them.
Yeah. Oh, I just had something and I completely forgot about it. We'll come back to me later.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, right. Always happens.
But yeah.
Okay, because and then I wanted to ask if you had any like critiques or anything you disliked about the film.
Okay. I'll just go off of what I was saying before about that. I'd say probably around, I forget the kid's name, who was the son of the
Stebbins?
Yes. She like it was really good world building too, to have him there and to be like, yeah, this, you don't even know who this colonel,
the sick guy.
Yeah, the sick guy.
Yeah.
You don't even really know who this like colonel dude is. Like
the major.
The major. Yeah, the major. He obviously, he's not the leader of the government, because they wouldn't be having him be out there and about doing this. But he definitely seems to be some kind of propagandized figure, sort of like this.
Like the face.
The face of this new order. The face of just sort of this masculine ideal of, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. We're going to get back to number one after, I know there's some lore about what exactly happened in the book about like a not so good outcome to World War II or something like that. But yeah, like clearly they're in dire straits, and this guy is like the answer to the hopelessness that people feel, but it's not helping anybody, obviously.
Right.
But when that kid was like giving his sort of story, it was good world building, but I think at that stage of the story, I was ready for that last leg of the journey, and the film was just kind of having to deal with him to get us to the last bit, because a lot of characters we were really attached to had all kind of been killed off, and Stebbins was one who was, he was always kind of a jerk, throughout the story. He didn't want to get.
He was about himself.
He was about himself. He was about the competition of it.
Yeah.
And he was sick. He would have won if he wasn't sick.
Yeah. In the book, Stebbins plays, I think, a bigger role, because in the book originally there was 100 walkers, but he shortened down to 50, so they had to combine a couple of characters together. And Stebbins' character was combined with another character, Scram, because of his sickness. Because Scram had sickness in the book, and Stebbins was just fine as a regular guy. Not regular, but just a guy in the book who was, still the major's son.
Yeah.
But he had interacted a lot more with the had interacted a lot more with the characters in the book and was more of just like an antagonist and kind of more of a threat in the book than he was in the movie, which I would also agree is like a critique I would have, because I wish
Steppen was more antagonistic in the book than he was. Did you read the book?
I've started reading the book. I'm on chapter 5 of the book, and Stebbins already has
same title, I assume. Yeah.
A bigger role in the book than he does the movie.
Interesting. Yeah, one of my critiques was like I thought that whole part of his character about him being like a bastard of the major was just like so right, that it was his son, right?
Yeah.
That felt a little like randomly put for me. Like it kind of threw me off because I was just like, why? It seems like it gave a little bit more personality. Well, not personality, but more character to the major, who I thought was pretty cool because we didn't know anything about him. We didn't even see his face other than the fact that it was Luke Skywalker. But we just knew him for what he was, and we knew he was just like. I liked how we didn't know a lot about him.
Yeah.
And that part kind of like changed it a little bit, if that makes sense. Like that, it felt unnecessary, I guess.
I think I'm on and off about it. I'm thinking if it were kept in the script the way I would have doctored it was I would have probably dropped that information a little sooner.
Yeah.
Because it almost seemed a bit to me like in Demon Slayer, right after the demon gets its head cut off, you get the backstory, and then even though you were hating its guts for the entire arc, now you feel bad.
Yeah.
Now, so it's like sometimes backstory is used as a bit of a crutch to sort of retroactively add character to somebody who was more one note. Not that I think Stebbins was poorly written, but obviously there's a lot of characters, so they can't all be super deep. Some of them, they have their shtick, and that's good because they fit into their role very easily. He's the tryhard, and he gets sick, and that's sort of the irony about it. But certainly I feel like I would have tweaked that part of the story a bit myself.
Yeah.
If I had the writer's chair.
I had another critique about the world building, but before I get into it, I think I missed some good moments of dialogue early on, just because like I was watching it last night in my dorm, and my roommates were out talking, playing music, so I'm like trying to watch this movie, but there's distractions around me, so I could have missed a few things. But I felt a little confused with the world building, because one, I assumed it was like just by like the vehicle and like the military, what they were wearing, it seemed like kind of like 60s era. I don't really know when it's supposed to take place.
79.
79?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that part makes sense, but I also didn't understand what happened to this authoritarian government. You said it with someone said it with like World War II went differently. Did they say that in the beginning?
Yeah, at the beginning it says, I think 19 years before this current law was taking place, a war happened in America, lost like big time, and so now like apparently a lot of people aren't working, a lot of people aren't doing enough like in the government's eyes, and that's why they have the long law.
So what? I also didn't understand like why the need to make this like a television or a televised like competition, like kind of like what Hunger Games-esque, right? And like what's the point of like killing them, I guess? Like what that's what I missed.
The way they at least justify it, was like it was trying to be like, oh, you're like an ideal to the country because you're putting it all on the line, and you can't exactly be putting it all on the line if you're not getting shot in the head. So
yeah, and to go off of that more is like the whole point, or the whole movie, they made it seem like this walk was, well, they literally said it was a service to your country, to your state, or wherever you're from. You're a patriot for walking. That's why you have the cops like doing a salute on the side. But like they're the only people getting the winner's the only person getting the money, and he gets to choose to share it with. So I kind of missed how that was serving your country. You know what I mean?
I mean, the whole walk is like a parallel to like being enrolled into the army and being enrolled to like go to war. And it's like, how am I gonna explain this?
It's supposed to be a service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In like a way.
Yeah, well, because this was Vietnam times,
Yeah.
especially when it was written.
Yeah, it was directly written during the Vietnam times.
Yeah. So, think about it. You're talking The Long Walk, I think it makes more sense in the context of, I think, what it's meant to be satirizing, I think, more than it makes sense on its own as a concept.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense because it's like Vietnam as a war was never a war that the American industrial complex had any interest in ending. So it was just a meat grinder. You go, you take your tour, which you think tour, you kind of think like walk. You go, you take your tour, you come back, and then you can take another one. And you're not doing anything. You're just going to a place, maybe dropping some napalm, maybe, going through a few skirmishes in the jungle, and then you leave, and then it's back to square one. Like, so in that way, I think The Long Walk makes sense as like an allegory for the Vietnam War.
Okay.
And for just sending boys off to die and then filling their heads with a bunch of, good job, good work, you got some real balls on you.
So there's a sort of a political statement to it too.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Definitely.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I would say that is a critique, but it seems like it's something I just missed. But yeah, no, that okay. I kind of like that. I'm liking it a little bit more. See, this is why we have these conversations, so we can all understand things together and learn.
We read the appendices.
Yeah.
Have you got any other questions you wanted to ask?
Yeah. Were there any like moments that really stuck out to you, or anyone that really stuck with you while you watched the movie?
I think the guy with the wife,
Hank Olsen.
yes. I think his death, I mean, that clearly, because when I was like looking at reviews and stuff and some stuff on Instagram about like people's reaction to the film, like his like, I did everything wrong, I did it all wrong, like at the end was something that really stuck out to people. And just sort of his attitude the whole time, how you don't really know what brought him to this point, that he thought it was worth kind of throwing it away, even if he's kind of talking the whole film like he doesn't even have a chance to win. So you wonder, everyone, save for a few, feels like they're going to lose. So it's sort of this idea of like, why are we even doing this? And him like screaming out like, I did it all wrong. You don't necessarily know the answer as to why. You don't know why he's there. But that's kind of I think a core question of the movie, kind of encapsulated in that moment, is like, they can't really answer if this is a volunteer-based thing. If we are allowed to say no, why did we put our names in, and why did we not cancel when they said we were selected?
Right.
We had the choice, but we chose to do it anyways. And I feel like it's kind of one of those contradictory things about gambling anything. Like, if the odds are stacked against you, the logical thing to do would be to not risk it. And yet they do. And we do as humans. And it's a really interesting point, but the whole point is that like, they don't feel like they have a choice, because like, if they don't get this extremely risky, high risk, high reward scenario, then they're never going to get anywhere in life. And I think that's sort of what would lead somebody like him to give up, his family, the chances he had. And so that was the moment, that was the death that stuck out to me the most. But yeah, I mean, there was tons that.
Yeah. One specific moment is kind of hard for me to choose. There, like you said, there are so many, but honestly, any instance of them bonding together and like helping each other walk, right? They'd use each other for sleep. They'd walk, which I'll get to in a sec, but like, they have arms around each other, taking weight from everybody else to help them as a team. I thought that was really cool to me. And it was something I could relate to too, because obviously this is, there's themes of brotherhood and teamwork and like all those lovey-dovey emotions, themes. But it's something I relate to in, rugby too, especially because, we, in something called a scrum, we physically bind up and, grab each other. And then to put it, for lack of a better word, just we push against the other team, basically. But that wouldn't go over very well if we weren't tightly bound together. And teamwork is so emphasized in rugby, and how it's like, you got your brother's back. You're always holding his arm. You're basically putting your body on the line for others, right? And it reminded me, especially the hill scene, it reminded me of this specific clip that I saw on Instagram where the Fijian national team and the French national team were training together in Fiji. And for their training, they had to climb up this dirt mountain or whatever, this big hill with like loose ground, loose soil. And they did it in like pods or groups of 5 or so, or however many. They would grab each other, grab their waists, grab their arms, Fijians and Frenchmen together, and climb up this massive hill together for reps. Or I don't know if it was for reps, but and that clip went viral, and it was really inspiring. And that's what this movie reminded me of, and it was something I could really relate to because of that. So yeah, any moment like that, it really were the ones that stuck out to me the most, for sure.
Yeah. What about you? What was yours?
All right. What stuck out to me? Goodness, I don't know. Well, there's a lot, but I think the moment that, I guess, stuck me most was Art Baker's death. Even most times I watch the movie, I still get so emotional during that scene, and it always, I don't know, it surprises me how emotional I get, because I liked Art. He was cool, but I don't know. I think I know,
Was he the one in the yellow?
Who was he? He was one with the, he was the religious one with the cross.
Yes.
Yeah.
It just, I guess,
that one was sad too, actually. Yeah. You know what? That would be my moment now, I think, because they were all holding him up too, and they're like,
it's like knowing that you're going to die from something that you could have never predicted. You could have never predicted that you're going to get a brain hemorrhage, on the walk, and there's no way you could survive this anyway. So the fact that you're going to die, and it, I guess, just makes you really emotional each time.
Yeah, and that goes back to what you were saying earlier, Trey, with the realization of stakes. Early on in the film, they're like, okay, we're walking, and then bam, we're thrown right into it. And then I think the title card comes in right after that first death. But at this point in the film, to Art's death, they know that only one person's gonna make it. They've been through these traumatic events already, or traumatic moments in this one event, and they've kind of accepted. At that point they've accepted that there's a high chance that they'll die, right? And Art himself too, and that was such a powerful, those are powerful pieces of dialogue where Art was like, they're like, oh, thank you, you're such a great friend to me. They're giving his final goodbyes. He had his final request for him. I'm getting chills thinking about this. And he was just like, don't look. And that's all I asked for. And then they all just, they continue to walk away, and they're thankful for each other at that point in time. And I don't know, it's just really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a good scene.
Yeah, no, it 100% was. That being said, I mean, who could direct this movie really well?
Who?
Jordan Peele. Or wait, yeah.
Yeah, Jordan.
Yeah.
No, I could definitely see that.
100%. It's I would give it more of a thriller than horror. Personally, I would label it more thriller than anything, and on top of that, psychological thriller. And I know, obviously Peele can dive into that even more, but the psychological aspects of it all was so crazy, because this was like a 5-day stretch, or less than a week stretch, where they're walking in the time, and some of them just go insane, especially the bully guy, who I forget his name. He's like
Markovich?
Yeah,
maybe with the long hair, and then and he literally went insane out of guilt. He was probably not the best person to begin with, but you could see everyone else, there was points where they couldn't handle it anymore, so they'd run away, or try to run away, or run at the guys and see if they could break free, grab a gun, whatever. So it was really interesting how quickly in their time that they really
Yeah.
dove into that, that mental state. And the other thing that I thought was really interesting is how they did the sleeping, because that's what was my first question right away. Like, how are they going to manage sleeping? And I don't know if this is like, I wonder if they like researched or interviewed like psychologists about this, but your body is trained to do whatever it needs to do to survive. And after being forced to walk like that, I wonder if like in real life, like your body is going to just naturally walk like that while you're sleeping. Either probably not
Micro
sleeping.
sleep is a real thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely like very interesting and weird. I think the last thing I would know, since you brought up them like running at the guys to see if they could like grab a gun or something, I just was so put off by like, they're all worried about speaking out openly about how they hate the long walk, but nobody ever tells them not to. There's never any consequences, and the people with the guns never speak to them, never yell at them. The major never says anything. When they like cuss him out, he just ignores them.
Well,
like,
it's not even that. He like entices it. He wants them to cuss him out.
Like, it was so interesting because like in a usual like dystopian film, there'd be like this fear around speaking openly. But in this case, like the soldiers don't say anything. You don't even ever see close-ups of their face. You just see like them just holding the gun, just the gun. And it was so off-putting how faceless they were.
Yeah. And and that's what I was trying to say with the major earlier. Like, he was like just a disturbing, off-putting character, right? And for that same reason, it's like, why? I was like fully expecting him to like maybe yell back or fight back in his own defense, but he was like, no, that's the spirit, keep on fighting, boys. How in a Mark Hamill voice.
Yes, the Joker.
Yeah. Now, I remember hearing his voice for the first time. I was like, wait a minute. Is this the guy? And then I kind of saw his face behind the sunglasses. I was like, oh my God. Which is crazy because he's the only, I guess, I don't know what you'd list him at, but B or A list celebrity in that.
Yeah.
The only actor I remembered was Scar.
Well, Peter McGree's, but he's played by David Johnson.
Yeah, because I saw Alien.
Romulus.
Oh,
She was in.
okay. Because I recognized his face too, but I couldn't put a name to it. But that was probably another point where they cut corners in the production. Is like hiring, not as known actors.
I like that.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
I want more of that in Hollywood.
My dad keeps throwing on these like Clint Eastwood Western movies with all these like random people they probably got off the street doing like, 1 second,
especially the
cameo
spaghetti
appearance.
ones.
Yeah, I kind of miss when you could just throw in somebody randomly, like because you know what we haven't, because you would never get accusations of NPCs in movies if you just cared to show that the NPCs were people too.
It's neorealism, is what it is. We're lacking that in today. But
yeah, did you have another question? I feel like we might make this question the last one, and then we can talk it out.
My last question, I guess, is going to be, like, what were your thoughts on Ray Garrity and Peter McGree's, just as, like, characters or just, like, their bond in general?
Yeah. Should talk about them, definitely.
The two main characters? Yeah, we probably should talk about them. Ray and Peter?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I did. They were great. Peter's such a good guy. He's such a good friend.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of my first takeaway after finishing it was realizing, like, they only met a couple days ago, but, no matter what the outcome is, obviously if, they both survived, which they couldn't have, they would have been lifelong friends through this one experience, 5-day experience. They learned so much about each other just through that. And that was really amazing and says a lot. Like, you can meet your best friend and go through some adversity together and just be bonded for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I think I liked them both a lot. I think Ray was really good as an understated protagonist. Because he's not doing all the talking. He's not really the one who's initially saying, like, let's all be buddies. But he's not against it either. He's just kind of there. And I think that's what it's good. It's like he starts off as a good blank slate protagonist, but you never want to keep a blank slate a blank state. blank slate. Like, ease them into it.
Right.
And I think they did a good job of like easing him into his role as trying to be like managing like the politics of this one road and the squabbles that they're having with each other, as well as like, you know, who's got to take a crap when, because we're going to need to be prepared so that they would have their time to do it before they get shot. And like, just kind of like that nannying of all the rest of the guys as they're going, I really thought was pretty wholesome, honestly. And I think him sort of giving up his vengeance quest at the end, only for Peter to take it back up.
Yeah.
That part confused me a little bit.
What confused you about it?
Not confused me, but like it just didn't seem. I mean, I'll just keep it brief because I know we're trying to wrap up, but I just gotta think of how I want to word this, but you know, it was nice that he filled out his goals, but the whole time he was saying like revenge isn't the way, like this isn't really what you want to do.
That was the whole purpose of the movie. Like both Pete and Ray, they change each other's perspectives on life. While Pete teaches Ray how like, oh, you should choose love in life. You know, you shouldn't do this vengeance stuff because, you know, I live a life of like violence and I found out that's not the way. But, you know, once Pete loses Ray, he realized he like understands Ray's perspective on what it feels like to lose someone you love so much that he is now willing to take up that life of violence again for Ray.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, actually.
Well, yeah, because it's the duality of like, to what extent can you be violent out of love, and to what extent can you just love out of love? Like, when do you have to draw the line and take up arms, literally, you know, against this person? And the deal is, like, you can imagine after the film, I mean, he probably got, you know, in trouble for that or executed, and in the end, like, you know, the promises they all gave each other, none of them
It left it open-ended.
But, you know, just the idea of it's televised, so, you know, contradicting the whole point of the long walk by not being satisfied, even if you want. You're like, you're giving me all these things, and you know what? I'm not happy about it because you set the terms to make it so all these people who didn't have to die did. And so I'm going to literally just show my you know, discontent, because the whole point is that he was supposed to be happy he won, and he wasn't.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Oh, imagine the production, like during production, like, because they're walking, the whole crew must be walking with them as they're walking. Like,
everybody
that was the other
workout.
thing. Yeah, like, that's gotta be crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I hope those actors nailed those lines right away, because that would have been terrible. A lot of reshoots.
It's a lot of monologue. So yeah, I don't know.
They used ADR a couple times, I noticed too.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, they kind of have to, because how do you you've got sometimes these wide shots with 6 characters speaking at different moments. You can't put a boom mic on each one of them in a wide shot. So that mostly means that probably a lot of that, either they have hidden lapels, which would be very difficult to keep quiet if they're walking and there's clothes.
Absolutely.
So they probably wouldn't be using the audio from that. This is just my technical diatribe. You'd have to ADR most of it, because it would be almost impossible to use a boom mic to get that correct.
Yeah. No, a lot of technical corner cutting too.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I thought it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. So you brought this film to us, and I'm going to let you, as we sort of come to a close here in the next 5-ish minutes, I'm going to let you say your piece on what moved you most. What do you think, to speak to our audience, to make them put this film on their list, even though they just got the entire thing spoiled for them, to be fair. So if you haven't seen this, man, sorry.
Do you put spoiler warnings on these things?
The whole point of the show is it's spoilers. We talk about movies.
Yeah, good point.
I'll put a spoiler warning on this one, just in case, even though we spoil every show and put that on my list. But why do you think people need to see this?
I think, I don't know, like, to me, this movie just shows how much and how important characters, dialogue, and like their interactions are to movies. For so much of this movie to just be people walking and talking with each other, it's just so interesting, and like you're so focused the entire movie on just these, people talking. I find that
relationships,
relationships, and especially between Ray and Pete, I think like them together is just such a wonderful thing, and I love watching the movie over and over and over again. Just see how they interact with each other, see things I didn't notice before. Like just this recent rewatch, which I think was the 8th one on Sunday. Yes, I'm noticing just like how like physically close they are together compared to like Hank and Art. They're all friends, but the way that that Ray and Pete are just like real close together, and while like they're just like them together, it's like so interesting. Like you can really see how their bond is like so strong, and like they're just so like
And it's a good message also to send to guys who feel like they can't be close. Like all guys are taught, like, you can't talk about your feelings. You can't like be physically close to one another. You can't confide in each other for comfort or anything. It's sort of, we're meant to see by the Major's example that we're supposed to, he wants everybody to dislike each other because this is a competition and only one of them get out alive. So it's a contradiction for them to become friends in this scenario. So what we're being taught is it's better, even if we don't think it's an advantage to connect to other people in a world that might be violent or hostile, that it is better to be close than anything else. And I think that sends a great message to young men, particularly, as is the entire cast of the movie.
Yeah. I assume that's because of the dystopian era. But
yes.
Answering another question that was brought up earlier, my biggest critique, and I'll stand by this because I thought it was so dumb. I get the satire of it, but like they wouldn't. They're all about team bonding and Three Musketeers, one for all for one, trying to get everyone together. But what about that one little kid that was just trying to talk to him, the scrawny kid? He was just, I don't know. No, he didn't have a name. It was the short, scrawny kid, and he kept trying to like butt in on the conversations, and they're like, all for one for all. He's like, yeah, and they go, everyone but you.
His name was Pearson, but yeah,
he's not the one with the wife.
No, that was not with the wife.
Okay.
Pearson was like the one with the glasses, the black one.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Well, they warmed up to him as time went on.
Okay.
But I think the whole died.
Yeah.
I was just like, come on, man. Help my guy out a little bit.
Yeah. But they were making jokes about the Four Musketeers, but if you read the Three Musketeers, there really are four of them. Yeah. D'Artagnan, he's the main character. I don't.
Are
you telling me you don't read?
I just know it.
200-year-old French literature. Shame on you.
Yeah, you're right.
All right. Well, that was great. I think we had a great talk there. Thank you for bringing this film to us very much.
Yeah, I'm glad I watched it.
And thank you to all of our viewers for coming to watch it. We have now put the film on the list, and now we can check it off. That's what we do on this show. And so if you'd like to check it out, please do. Spoiler warning at the end after you've been spoiled, of course, because where else would we put it? But thank you very much for coming in. Thank you, everybody. And we hope to see you all again very, very soon. Have a good one.
See you guys. Thank you.
Bye.